Okay, hello Year 10s. Welcome back to your unit on statistics. Today it's a little bit more revision or review of statistical graphs. So what we're going to be working on is remembering how to organize, when I can spell properly, data for presentation as stem and leaf plots and histograms. And the goal is, at the end, you'll be able to create frequency tables, use them to make histograms and stem and leaf plots, and then in turn use them or the tables to find your averages in the data. And by averages, I mean your mean, median, and mode. To do this, I'm actually going to talk you through the questions from the book, starting with question 1. Okay, so question 1 gives you some data for 20 hockey teams, just a couple of rows of numbers. You've got to organize the data into a frequency table. You've got to use that frequency table to make a histogram, then a stem and leaf plot, and then use the stem and leaf plot to find the median. So I'll talk you through each of those steps. Let's start with the histogram. Make that the frequency table. All right, so here is for question A. We've got our frequency table. So we've got class interval set up in the first column, frequency in the second, and percentage frequency in the third. At the bottom, we've got an area for working out our totals. That's sort of a space for us to self-correct and pick up on any mistakes that we might be making. Okay, to make our class intervals, we need to look at our data. And we can see the lowest is 0 and the highest is 15. Now, given that there's 20 teams, if they all play each other once, that means each team will play 19. So we need to go from 0 to 19 in intervals of 5. So we start with 0 and we just go dash, leave it blank. The next interval will start at 5 because we're doing intervals of 5, 10, and then 15. And that would logically take us up to 19 if we've got an interval of 5. Okay, our next step is to tally up the frequency of each interval. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So anything less than 5 will go in here. So let's go through and tally them up. So there's 4, that's 1. There's a 3, that's 2. 3, 4, 5. So there's 5 of those. So I'm just going to write 5 there. The 5s to 9, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of those. 10 to 14, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we've only got 115, so we'll put that there. Now, to self-correct, we make sure that we've accounted for everything. Number 1, by seeing that we've crossed everything off, and number 2, by seeing if it adds up to 20. 5 plus 5 is 10, 9 plus 1 is 10, 2 10s is 20. So that works out. All right, let's move on to the last column. This is percentage frequency, and you work it out by taking the count for that row, dividing it by the total number of scores, and multiplying it by 100. So let us say if we want to find the percentage frequency for 0 to that class interval, 0 to 4, we've got 5 as the number of times that occurred, divided by 20, multiplied by 100, equals 25%. So with that percentage, I put it in there. I'm not going to write percentage again because it's got percentage written up there. Now, these two scores were the same, so I'm just going to go ahead and make life a bit easier and just plonk that in there. If we look at the second row, we've got to find the percentage frequency for 5 to 9. Now, there was 9 of those scores, so 9 divided by 20 times 100 is 45%. And I'll quickly just fill in the last one, that's going to be 5%. So what should happen is they should all add up to 100. So 25 plus 25 is 50, 45 plus 5 is 50, that's 100. Okay, so Math seems to be going so good so far. Part B wants you to create a histogram. Now let's quickly talk about what a histogram is, because it can be easily confused with like a bar chart or a column graph. Right, one of the key things about histograms and the key differences between them and a bar or column chart is that histograms are used for numerical data, whereas bar charts and column graphs tend to be used for categorical data. Another important feature is that you don't put gaps between each of the bars. The reason we don't have gaps is because the data is continuing on a number scale that doesn't stop. Whereas if you're dealing with categorical data, there should be a gap because each bar represents a different category, something that's different, not something that's continuing on. Okay, your x-axis is always the frequency or percentage frequency, depending on what the question asks for. So that's the axis that goes up and down. And the final point that's worth mentioning at the moment is that whatever scale you use, it needs to be even on both axes. So not that it needs to be the same, it just needs to continue at an even rate. So if you start counting up in ones, you've got to keep counting up in ones. If you're counting up in fives, you keep counting up in fives. You don't jump different gaps each time you put a line on your number line. Okay, let's draw it. So I'm just going to have a quick look at my data before I do anything. I need to go up to, let's say, 20 across the bottom, and my highest frequency is 9, so I need to go up to 9 along the side. So let me drop the axes for that. Okay, so here's my axes, and I've got my labels ready to go. I've written frequency on the X and score along the bottom. Now I'll add numbers. Okay, so if I can get rid of this thing, don't know why that little pop-up's there. There we go. So if you look at this, I've started at 0 and I've counted up in ones, and I kept counting up in ones. That's what I mean by the scale is even. Likewise, on the y-axis where I put my score, I've gone up by 5, 0, 5, 10, 15, 20. Because I started going up by 5s, I kept going up by 5s. That's an even scale. Time to add my data. Now the first group interval was 0 to 5, and it was 5 teams that got that score. So I'm going to get a pen and draw a line to show that. The second group, which started at 5, went right up to 9. So there's my pen for that. Now that was the tallest group. So I'm going to finish off that bar over here. The next group had 5 again. So let me just line up my ruler reasonably close. Ugh, that's not good. There we go. And the last group had only 1. Okay, I'll just quickly add lids or tops to these bars so it makes a little more sense. 1 there. 1 there. I should have done that when I did the other one. Silly me. And there, okay, get rid of the ruler so we can see. So you can see I've got 4 bars, just like I had 4 sections in the histogram before. Notice how the bars line up. Number 1, I've left no gaps because we're continuing on. We're not skipping between 4 and 5. It ends at 4 and starts straight away at 5. There should be no gap, just as there isn't in a number. The bars, because we're doing intervals and the interval goes from 0 to just below 5, the bar goes from 0 to just below 5. The next bar goes from 5 to the next interval, which was 10, which goes to the next interval, which was 15. I don't want to see 10 sitting in the middle of a bar when you're drawing a histogram. The numbers should be at the beginning and the end of each bar. Probably another thing worth adding is a bit of a title. We're going to call it Hockey Team Wins. Okay, looking again at question B, it also wants a percentage frequency on the one graph. Now that's pretty easily done. Let me show you. Okay, because I can just pick up titles and move them, I'm just going to move that a little bit to there. I'm going to just tidy up over here and get rid of that little arrow because I want to continue that line, which I will do quickly now, just to the next. Missy still got the eraser on. Okay, just to the next bit. Doesn't quite line up, but anyway. I'll quickly turn my ruler around and I'm going to draw a line up here. I'm going to do it the same height roughly as the other one. Get rid of my ruler, add my arrow. Now, this time, remember 1% was 5, so this time I'm going up in 5. So 5, 10, 15, 20. Again, my scale is even. I'm not just jumping to numbers that suit me. And the highest percentage is, whoopsie-daisy, 45%. Okay, and then all we have to do is add a label for that. So I'm just going to control and copy that and just add a percentage at the front. And pop you into place. Okay, so that's done. All we had to do was add an extra axis and write a different scale on it. Right, question C wants you to do a stem and leaf plot. So let's do a little revision for that. Okay, so when you're doing it, the stem is designed to represent the first digit or digits of each point of data, and the leaf is supposed to represent the last digit. You do need to include a key for your reader. For example, you might just write 1-3 to represent number 13. And here we can see that the first digit, the stem here represents the first digit, which is the 1. And the leaf on this side is representing the last digit, which is the 3, and together they come to represent 13. Also, it's nice if you can write the leaves sequentially. It makes it easier to read. It'll also make it easier for you to find those averages that you'll be expected to find. Okay, so you set up your table, you decide what your stems are going to be. Now I go from 0 up to 15, so I'm going to have one stem is 0 to represent the numbers 0 through to 9, and another stem is 1, which will represent the numbers 1 through to 15. Then I go through and try to find the numbers in order. So I'll start it off, first number is 0, so I'll put a 0, that's my first leaf. I've done that one. Second lowest number is 1. I'm going to pop that there and get rid of that. The third lowest number is 3, so cross that out, and so on and so forth. Okay, so there's my first stem and all of its leaves, and you can see that I've not left any numbers under 10 over here. Now I move on to my second stem, which starts at number 10, and I've got one of those, so I write a 0 to represent 10. The next lowest number is 11. I've got 2 12s, so I'm going to write 2 2s. There's 13 and 15. So hopefully that's everything accounted for. Just to double check, I make sure I have 20 leaves, which I do. And finally, I just need to add a key. So my key is a stem of 0 and a leaf of 4 is a score of 4. The last thing you need to do is find your median. Now that's your middle score. So you need to write them all in order, which we've done. And now we just have to find out which one is the middle. To find where in that sequence that middle score is, we're going to use this formula where it's n plus 1 divided by 2. N is the total number of scores, and there was 20. So it's going to be 20 plus 1 divided by 2. And we get 10.5. Now 10.5 is not our median score. It means we have to find out what is in that position in the line. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And it's right there that it falls. So halfway between 7 and 8. So the median score is 7.5. Okay, and that's question 1. Takes a little while. I think my explanation of that should see you well through the rest of the exercise, which is question 2, 3, and 4. Good luck, and of course I am near my computer should you need any help.